the sense is, Vikram, that at the moment there is a partisanship, a polarization, that you pit one against the other. Bose is being pitted against Nehru. Earlier, Patel was being pitted against Nehru in a way. Bose is being pitted against Gandhi. I mean, these were all comrades in the fight for freedom. I just saw a letter very affectionately written in 1936 by Bose to Nehru inquiring about his health. They were all on the same side. Is this the fact that the RSS somewhere didn't have their own freedom icons? So now in the 75th year, Amrit Mahotsav, desperately looking for people who may be seen today as anti-Nehru or anti-Congress and latch on to them. Sardar Patel first, now Netaji Bose.
Rajdeep, I don't understand this whole charge of appropriation and so on. After all, when the Prime Minister of a country at the time of the 75th year of independence honors some leaders, and rightfully so, that can't be called appropriation. And the very fact that many of them were left orphaned, whatever Aditya Mukherjee might say, as I read out, I mean, anything that doesn't fit his description cannot become ahistorical. As I read out, Netaji's family's, letters where they had this angst that it seemed that in 1955, as early as 1955, that the narrative was being built that there were only two men who mattered for India's freedom struggle, Gandhi and Nehru. And this is his own nephew writing about it. Now, the very fact that many of them, why did it take 3 decades or 4 decades to honor Sardar Patel or an Ambedkar with a Bharat Ratna, much before even Indira Gandhi and Nehru and others got it. So the very fact that many of these people were ignored obviously lets them open. Orphans they get adopted by other people, and nobody can fault a politician for making political capital out of it. So just as he mentioned that there was a lot of love between the two. There were it was a very nuanced, complex relationship, and I'm sure Aditya Mukherjee knows that the manner in which there were differences with Gandhi and the reason why Netaji
it was, that's precisely a nuanced, complex relationship. Therefore, they can't be reduced to cardboard characters. So and so is now against the Congress. So and so is with us. These are complex figures. The worry, Dr. Sampath, is the manner in which, for example, Netaji's views on communalism or Hindu Mahasabha are very clear. Now, the Prime Minister is not going to mention that. He's only going to mention what suits him. There's this cherry picking going on, and when politicians cherry pick, they end up dividing iconic figures like Netaji. Netaji belongs to all Indians. He doesn't belong to one side or the other.
Indeed. And so, in fact, Rajdeep, that is perfectly correct that he belongs to all Indians, and that's why I think the need to honor him should have happened much more and in a much better fashion. And the very fact that, when he even escaped out of India, the only statement in his support, ironically, came from the same Savarkar. You spoke about nuances. The Congress was curiously silent about it, and it was Savarkar who said, and I quote him, "May the gratitude, sympathy and good wishes of a nation be a source of never failing solace and inspiration to him wherever he happens to be. Wherever he happens to be, I have no doubt he will continue to contribute his all, even his health and life, to the cause of Indian freedom," unquote. So I think, as you said, the nuance is very important to see. Just as there was a loving letter about Nehru in 1939, Netaji also complained to his brother that no one has done me more harm than Jawaharlal has done. That is 1939, much after the 1936 letter. He also had things to say about Gandhi, where he said he's an old, useless piece of furniture who has done good service in his time but is now obsolete, and he's an obstacle now in the cause of freedom. So these nuances are important not only for politicians but also as historians who should not become political party spokesperson and
that's the worry, that the debate has become so shrill, hyper polarized and partisan. We could, as you quoted Savarkar on Bose, I can also quote Bose on Savarkar, where he says the ideas of Savarkar and Hindu Mahasabha of anti-Muslim propaganda and practice means full collaboration with the British. So there are various views. Professor Mukherjee, it seems that this has now become right versus left. For the longest time, the left was accused of monopolizing history, of deciding who is iconic and who is not, how should you project someone. Now you've got a new government, which is an avowedly right-wing government, and they are looking at history from their lens. Should historians also fall for that trap?
Not at all. This is not right versus left. This is a historical perspective versus a completely imagined perspective. This is not being able to understand great people who had differences and yet could work together. It is after Netaji leaves the Congress and forms the forward bloc that Gandhiji insists on calling Netaji's and for his opinion on what to do in the next step on several occasions. I mean, I can give you endless examples of this. Netaji, when he forms his INA brigades, he calls them Gandhi Brigade, Nehru Brigade, Azad Brigade. And he tells his soldiers that when you enter Indian soil, the commander-in-chief will be not me, but Mahatma Gandhi. These are the people. Nehru could write an entire autobiography critiquing Gandhi, and yet they could work together.